on Lagos Talks 91.3.
Today we're having a conversation with an expert, or should we say an expert alone, or a top performer in the financial sector. And we're looking at someone who has a deep knowledge of what happens in the Nigerian financial sector. Some of those policies and instruments that you're benefiting from. I'm sure she has a hand in it. She'll tell us a bit about it. She is the head or the chief executive officer of Enhancing Financial Inclusion and Advancement, that is EFINA, and she is Foyisola Akin Jayeju. Good morning, though. Sorry. Good day to you.
Good day to you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
Good to have you here, too. Good to have you here. And congratulations, or should we say Happy International Women's Day?
Thank you, and Happy International Women's Day to you. You look like a he for she. I know you don't like labels, but we're all great champions, male champions for the women.
Great. I mean, it's for, I said some time ago that for this call for equity to work, you need to carry men along. At some point, I said, when I was part of the Gender Communication Network, I said, listen, if you keep saying women have a right, you're not communicating to the people that are depriving women of the rights. So you should rather be saying, you men, stop doing ABC to women. And that way, you get better results.
Maybe we wouldn't say it that way. We won't say stop doing it, but this is the implication or the consequence of the ABCs that you do to women. And thank you for the amazing work that you do and the platform that you're leveraging to really amplify the need for women to be, to do their share and to benefit as well. Yeah,
that's it. We're happy to do that. But let's go straight into the conversation. You have been a woman who's been through the ranks to become the CEO of this company. Tell us a bit about yourself. Let's meet you. Who are you? How did you start in life? And how did you get to where you are?
Well, like many women, I grew up in a family of four people. So I have three siblings. I always tell the story that my father, a great guy for who he is, he like many African fathers didn't realize that he had this unconscious bias. Because as a kid, I was very clear-eyed on the fact that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a doctor, but those things were unheard of. You were either an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. But I knew that I wanted to solve problems on a global scale. My frame of reference at the time was the United Nations. I would say to my dad, I want to work with the United Nations. This was even before I went into secondary school. And at initial time, he wasn't responding, but there was this look on his face like, what is she thinking? What are you thinking? But as I started to, get closer to university, and I said, I wanted to study economics. He was like, why don't you just do law? No, I wanted to study at the time international relations because I was already,
But you were
international relations. That means you're going to be traveling all over the world. You won't have time for your family. You won't be able to keep a home. You probably want to get married. In my head, I was like, how does that stack up? How would my working with the United Nations or wherever stop me from doing that? But as a daddy's girl, like that I am, I said, okay, I'll do economics. But then life happened, I did some other course. But even after that, I knew that for me, it was how do I make an impact? I hate to see people suffer. I hate to see people cry. I hate injustice, unfairness. I love equity. I didn't know what those things meant at the time, but I just thought everyone should be able to get to the peak of their potential. And so, I started my career in a Big Four organization, a Big Four accounting and consulting firm. And I was into audit, but I saw the light and then crossed over to consulting because it really was about not taking a bashing, as we used to call it those days. You're coming back to account for what people had done, for a year. I wanted to solve problems, business problems. And then I started to focus on small businesses. How do we help people, to strategize, to scale their business, to compete effectively? And then, through my interactions, I also saw that individuals were also at a disadvantage. How do we get individuals, to rise, to be empowered, to grow? I ventured into education, focused on inclusive education, providing access to millions of children, providing access to quality education for the underserved communities. So did that for a couple of years as well. And that's after my Big Four experience. I also went into industry with an indigenous oil and gas services company. But even in my time, it was about how do we get this organization to grow, to compete, and all of that. And then I find myself now in the financial sector and really driven by that opportunity to help millions of Nigerians. Because if you're familiar with the work that we do, it is ensuring that Nigerians, regardless of your gender, regardless of your socioeconomic status, can have access to a broad range of affordable, secure, reliable financial services, not just for the sake of it, but that helps you to improve your lives, to improve your livelihoods, to enhance the well-being of your family, to grow communities, and to make the Nigerian economy a better place. So that's a bit about me, really.
Right, so you've been to the top four, you've been in the oil and gas sector, been in education, now you're back to the financial sector and all that. You've been around quite a lot.
Would you say?
So would you say going around and growing, along the ranks, would you say being a woman had limited in any way? Maybe you could have grown higher or faster than this, or would you say it's giving you advantages in any way?
Interesting question. I think that it would be a blend of both. I think that there have been times where I thought, maybe if I was not a woman, if I was a man, maybe some opportunities would come. I'll tell you, for instance, there were earlier in the day when I was in this Big Four, without people realizing it, there would be some projects that a woman would not get onto. Because maybe the project required, like late nights, because, there were deadlines to be met or required extensive travel. And so they wouldn't even consider you until people started to say, why don't you give us the opportunity to say, oh, I'm not interested. Raise it with us. Don't see us as you're trying to protection. Or we would love protection, but that's not, give us equal opportunity. So I think that, I haven't said that there obviously were opportunities that were passed, was passed already just by virtue of the fact that I was a woman. But again, as you grow in your career, and then as opportunities also, as people became more enlightened on the fact about giving women equal opportunities, then I started getting exposed to those kind of things. But it's important to also signal or to say that it's not enough to say that you were not given an opportunity. When you do get the opportunity, what do you do with it? I'll tell you, for example, in my time, when I was going to have my son, this remote working experience was not there at the time, right?
We didn't have COVID.
And I wanted to exactly so it was a strange, arrangement or phenomenon at the time. But I had a female boss, and I said to my boss, I don't want to start my maternity leave early, but I want to go out of the country early before I started to show, but I'll continue to work remotely. It was unheard of at the time. But I was able to make that request because I had delivered at a certain level where my boss could trust me to say, it is okay. The only thing that will be missing is you can't make physical meetings. It was like an arrangement between both of us for me to be out of the country. So my son didn't come until December. I had left the country in September. And I did not resume until March, 3 months after. So, and that is on account of the work and the credibility that I had built by trust. So I'll say that being a woman, emotional intelligence is very important. And I think that you must prove yourself. So obviously, I was able to get that remote. I'm not sure how many guys would have gotten 6 months remote work when remote was not a thing. So, but a woman can. But a woman that had, proven her mettle, that obviously is one that comes to mind.
And one that is reliable, that the company can. Now, when you look at this, and it leads to one question that popped up when you were speaking earlier on that, would you say women understand the society we are right now enough to look for, should we say, opportunities or way out or a way to handle the society in their favor?
If women don't, then it shows that some of us have not, provided that enough exposure and enough knowledge for people to know. Because the truth is, compared to where we're coming from, I think there might not be a better time to be a woman than now in Nigeria.
Comparatively,
yes, and that's just based on historical, trends. And because a lot has changed. A lot has changed in terms of the actual opportunities given to women. A lot has changed in terms of even the idea of a woman being a leader, the idea of a woman working in certain sectors. A lot has changed. So I think that if women don't see it, two things can be happening. They're not putting themselves in a position to learn, or those of us that have gone ahead have not done it enough to be able to sell this message to them. And it's the true message, it's the truth. I came out of, I think it was December or January, there was a conference that was, it was implemented out of the office of the vice president, the highest, in the presidency. And it's a conference around gender inclusion, economic and financial inclusion, on the back of the fact that Nigeria is trying to build a $1 trillion economy. And since that, for that to happen, every part of our economy is to be able to, participate effectively. And saying, what are the areas or the barriers to women being able to participate and benefit fully? And then what can we do about it? That tells you that there's a lot of attention and focus at the highest office to provide this opportunity to women. So women need to seek knowledge. They say buy wisdom, sell it not. Seek knowledge. Because the truth is, there is opportunity now. And it's not enough to seek knowledge to say, what is the opportunity? Then you need to invest in yourself. What do I need to do to be able to maximize the opportunities that exist? From skills, from an experience, from a network. Create the right network where you can be with people that can speak for you, that can feed into you, so that your reach and your contributions are more elaborate.
Right. And when we look at the Nigerian society, we've spoken about what your view of women in Nigeria is, as in if they're not taking advantage, what should be done. But looking at the society in general, would you say the views of the society, not just men now, because even some women restrict other women, but the society as a whole and the limitations we put, the roadblocks we put for women, would you say our views of women has changed over the years? And how, if at all, is it for good or for bad?
I believe it has changed for good, and that's the testament to that is the women that you're seeing take up positions across different sectors. So back in the day, some things were like almost impossible, but now it's almost everywhere to some extent. So I think that is showing that the narrative is shifting, and so women are not just getting the opportunities; they are seizing the opportunities and they are maximizing them. I say to women, and I am a woman and no one should fail. But when you fail as a woman, you're not just damage your own reputation. You kind of close the door for many other women, because then they label it, there goes another woman. That's why we say that
female driver.
Absolutely.
The old girl is the woman.
It's a woman. I'm always eager to show my driving skills. And especially when you're trying to back up into a space. They are always expecting you to do this like a million maneuvers before you get. And I always do that. I'll just go once and they call me, this is the woman, and I always glow.
Is it a guy that taught you to drive?
So I hear you, but women are taking up spaces. So women should be inspired by that. And so that is testament to the fact that the narrative has shifted. But we're not where we should be. Because the truth is, if you look at it, it's a sliver. It's just a fraction, really, especially in boards, in the corporate world, in politics. It's still a fraction that the higher ups or the leadership that is taken up by women. But a lot has happened for them. A lot more can happen.
All right, and looking at this now, we still have people who are stuck in their ways, that men are the ones that work with. Till date, you still have men that cannot work with women. You still have men that will, whatever they need to do to prevent a woman from becoming their boss, they will do it because they do not understand why they should report to a woman. I see the look on your face.
And I feel so much pity for them.
So, and that goes that it feels like you're taking the words out of my mouth there. What are the dangers in, or let me not say what are there dangers in neglecting women in a society?
Absolutely. I think that women have a unique advantage. Not to say that men don't have, and both genders do. So men should play to their strengths. Yeah. But a woman is comfortable leading from the heart. And there's so much power in leading from the heart. And when a woman is a leader, she does all the great things that a man should do. She's logical, she leads her team, she rallies the troops, she inspires, she motivates. But then beyond all of that, she's mindful of building strong, deep connections. And individuals want to know that they are seen, that they are heard, that you care. Because they say people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
A woman can care and have no apologies about caring. There's so much power in that. Both men and women would benefit from a woman leader, especially a woman leader who is sound, who is worth her weight in gold. She knows her stuff, she knows her audience, and then she's able to lead from the heart. Unapologetically. There is no better combination than that.
Right. And when you look at Nigeria, for example, we throw a lot of not just data but ideas around, and there are many accusations. We talk about how women are limited, but I often ask one question: beyond some of these limits or restrictions that we put in the ways of women, might not be intentional. For example, there are companies that, looking at the turnaround time, they don't want to employ women, not because the woman is not active. She'll go on maternity.
She'll get married. She'll go for.
She'll have monthly issues and all that.
What are those monthly issues, by the way?
Well, I'm still looking for someone to tell me what they are.
I don't know. I'm not sure there's any monthly issues.
So they look at all that, and if you look at it realistically, it's okay. That turnaround time will sit in for her, especially for a company that is working on maybe restricted budgets. If you look at politics, for example, even youth, young, very active, intelligent people are not able to get into Nigerian politics as much as we would. And because of the constraints, the excesses and all that people get into, is a problem. Do we have a problem with policies? Maybe shifting our policies to accommodate certain nuances. For example, must we do more about beyond the 3 months that you get for maternity leave? There are women that go and they have complications. There are women that when they're pregnant, the 9 months is hell for them. Does that mean they shouldn't work? Are we doing enough with policies to accommodate the peculiarities of women?
I mean, that question is one to think about really carefully, because again, organizations are set up for a reason.
Yes.
They have, like you say, resources that are really restricted or constrained, and so they are being mindful of that. However, what I would say is, as much as a company can be progressive or open and flexible to accommodate genuine, because I do know, I'm a woman myself. I know how women also want to take advantage of what you say. I know that. I mean, I know that happens. So that can breed suspicion and cynicism. But genuine cases and concerns should be given attention to. And that's because everyone has the contributions that they're making, whether male or female. But if you have a great team member, if they have genuine reasons to be away, if you have corporate policies, you should have corporate policies that allow for that. In some organizations, beyond just your sick leave or your annual leave, they allow you to have some days off, and that's part of like your entitlement. And it could just be, call it whatever, it could be an off day, it could be a day, whatever it is, to say, okay, this needs to just, and to attend to whatever it is that you're dealing with. It might not be a national policy, to be honest with you, because again, if it's national, then you're trying to mandate certain things, and there's certain organizations that might not be able to accommodate that. But what I'll say is, even the 3 months that you have, make it count. When you're sick, then be responsible to call in on time to say, I will be around for so and so reasons. And then when you do come back, let your presence be felt. I gave you the instance where I was away out of the country before remote became a thing. And there was no reason for my boss to say, I regretted giving you this, to have made this arrangement work. And that's on account of the fact that when you're there, and you're fully present and you're making your presence count.
All right, let's talk about the corporate world as we begin to bring this home gradually. When you look at, we talk about the peculiarities in some cases for women in the corporate world. What are the do's and don'ts for women who are looking at making a mark in the corporate world?
The one thing that I say to many people, the people that I get to mentor, and that's because I've seen this over and over again.
Yeah.
Women were generally wired for great things, for greatness. But in our wiring, there's this emotional, bank that is busted almost. And I say to women, emotions, the corporate world is not an emotional environment. It's a logical environment. It's a logical environment. So keep your emotions in check. If you're going to have anything to do with emotions, let it be emotional intelligence. So that you can know, how do I interact with my colleagues? How do I interact with my bosses, male and female alike? And especially, and I know that this is not something that you've asked me, but I'll say that because I also get this, people telling me, oh, I'm facing whether overtly or covert intimidation by my boss, who maybe is male, who's maybe making advances on me and all of that. Let me tell you what worked for me. It probably will not work anymore, because at the time, and I also worked in a Big Four, so there was a lot of discretion, and people were careful not to not to abuse their authority and the power, because you can escalate it to the highest levels. I feigned ignorance. Like I would pretend that I don't understand what it is that you're passing across until you vocalize it, and at that point I address it. So if someone is pretending and is doing all of that, I don't understand that.
So you don't accommodate.
I don't even acknowledge it. But you can only do that to the extent that they are not, of course, being physical. They are not intimidating you. They are not, you know that there is no repercussion. They're not going to mark you down. They're not going to do your appraisals. Blue chip companies,
so they have a kind of dignity to
yes, to also to protect. So reputation to also protect. I've also gone for maybe what's it called, proposal pitches. You're going to a client to make a presentation, and then when you're done, you're like, okay, so let's catch up some other time. And when you catch up, they're having a different conversation with you, and you know what I mean by a different conversation.
I'm trying to.
You're like, should I take this and then win this project for the organization, or should I let it go? And that's where your values do not compromise your values, because the truth is, once you compromise once, it's free flowing from there. And then what kind of person, how do you live with yourself at night? How do you, so you want your integrity intact, you want your values intact. But importantly, it is not an emotional environment, a corporate world. It's logical. So whatever you do, only apply emotional intelligence and then put in your best. I said earlier, when you feel, it's not just you feeling, you have closed the door for several other women. And I dare say men don't agree to this, but it's a woman who needs to do more than a man to achieve the same level as the man. So it is not a place for lazy, incompetent people who are looking for things to be handed out to them. It's not gonna happen. If that's what you're looking for, good luck to you. So you need to invest in yourself, in your skills, in your competencies, and then build a network of those who would advocate for you. But they should be advocating for the good work that you're doing, not just because you're pretty face.
That's good indeed. So what you're saying in essence is that you need to prove that you are as intelligent as any other human being.
Absolutely.
And do everything, because men themselves have whatever they're confronted with. Might not be as, definitely is not as much and as confrontational, exactly, as what women go through, but you just need to deal with it.
And invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Learn by doing, learn by getting knowledge, seek knowledge. Absolutely.
All right, great. And let's, final one here. When you look at Nigeria, since you're in the financial sector, how can we turn around the economy of Nigeria? Because a lot of time when you analysts are speaking, you financial experts are speaking, of course you deal with inclusion, so maybe you're even the best person to address this. Most times financial experts speak, they look at the macro
benefits, macroeconomic benefits. Oh, GDP is getting better. Oh, more investors are coming. Oh, the stock exchange is working well. And what else? So many things. Exchange rate is stabilizing and all that, and trade is surplus and all that. We know that, but to the average person on the street, who wants to know how that will affect the cost of food. What can we do to ensure that the benefits we see, or the growth we see, or the improvement is not restricted to macro, but extends to the micro part of the economy?
It's amazing. It's an amazing question you ask. And I was hoping that you would ask something along those lines. So I'll speak to what the data is telling us. I alluded to this $1 trillion economy that we want to build in no time. The truth is, the female gender, and I'm going to speak as a woman, and also because the data suggests that we should focus on the women. Right now, the female gender is at least 50% of the Nigerian population. I dare say probably is slightly higher than that. If you're going to get inclusive growth, if you're going to get growth at all, it has to be inclusive. Both genders need to play their part.
Yes.
Both genders need to pull their weight. Both genders need to participate fully and effectively. If you look at financial inclusion, and what does that really mean? Is access to a broad range of financial services, and not just opening accounts, but the fact that you can open an account, you can make payments, you can do savings, you have insurance, you have pension, even if it's at macro level. And the more very important one that I like to emphasize is credit. Productive credit. So credit is good for whatever, but productive credit especially, because when people who are in businesses can access credit, they can transform any nation. They can scale their business, they can generate employment, and then you can see that trickling down to the micro level, which is what you're alluding to. So if we only consider the fact that, as it stands, access to credit is about 6%, meaning 6% of Nigerians, adults, and this is even men in businesses, 6% of them have access to credit or taking credit. For women, it's about 4%. So what it tells you is a woman is limited. A woman-owned business is limited by the resources the woman has, and she cannot access credit to be able to scale that. So what does that tell you? If we're going to see any real impact in our economy, then obviously that has to change, that has to give. And then what are the barriers to credit? A number of them is the cost of the credit. Well, how costly? What are the rates that someone needs to pay to be able to access credit? That is a huge barrier for people to take in credit. And for some of it, there's also the psychology around credit. Credit is bad. If you take credit, it means you're failed. Or if you take credit, you're going to lose your sleep. You will have no peace. That's on account of the fact that it's costly and people have lost their livelihoods when the creditors come to recover. So those are some of the issues that we need to deal with. And the truth is, women are known to be better managers of money and to pay back. When a man has credit, I'm not going to say what they do with it, but we know how when a woman who owns a business has credit, then she's investing in the family. There's better access for her children to go to school. Their welfare generally improves because a woman would spend that money on the home. The child will go to school, and I'm not saying men don't pay their school fees, but when a woman has money, most of it is coming back into the home. The man might be okay, let's buy a bigger house.
Yes.
Let's buy a bigger house, maybe and the great other things, do a nicer car, and those are great things that we should. But the woman is first thinking, the school that my children are going to, the quality of it, their access to healthcare, and all of that. So imagine the welfare, the improvement of the well-being of the family, and more important, access to basic needs like the things I mentioned, and how the businesses can scale and improve and generate income. And bottom line is there's a ripple effect across and the ecosystem, and the entire nation benefits from that. So for me, I'll say if anything is going to change, it is improvement in the access to credit for everyone, especially business owners, and of course, even if I say so, women-led business owners.
Yeah, I expect you to end with that.
It's International Women's Day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Thank you so much for coming today, and we do really, really appreciate the time you spent with us. It's been quite informative. You've shared
your heart with us. You've told us a bit of your story. We didn't get too much into your stories. The down times.
Sometimes, some other time.
Some other time. Yeah, the down times where,
Anyway, man.
when your backs were against the wall. I'm singing a song that feels like it was all over. And suddenly a way made.
Okay.
But definitely, this is encouraging enough for the women out there, and we believe that you've motivated some people today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Foyisola Akinjayeju. Powerful name.
Thank you.
Powerful name. And the CEO of EFINA, Enhancing Financial Inclusion and Advancement. So thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you.